Howdy everybody, welcome back to the solar calculation spreadsheet. I've done 2 videos like this already for solar. You know, whenever a new Foretell mechanic card comes out that supports some of these Foretell solar decks, I gotta do some calculations. And most of the time they aren't good. But today, we got this card revealed the other day. It is Corvishine, Champion of Apollo. Now what this card does is it is a 2/5, so good stats. Your effects that foretell reveal an additional 3 cards. Also, you can shuffle your deck, then you may enchant your Apollo with a solar from your underworld. So this card is just a blanket foretell booster, not only for Apollo, but also for cards like Windjinn, Axolotl, I guess Magnaros if you're crazy, but things like that. You know, anything that foretells gets 3 additional cards off the top. Now your first impression might be that this card is very, very nice, right? It's a really good stats, helps with your consistency, but not really. It doesn't really help your consistency. Let's go through a few examples of when you would be using this card. Now, the first one is obviously with Apollo himself. So Apollo, you can disenchant to look at the top 3, add any Elestral foretold this way to your hand. Real solar heads know that if you play Apollo in like a dedicated solar deck, he's really pretty consistent. I'm not gonna lie, he hits way more often than not. So you can see over here, if you foretell 3 off of Apollo, if you have 15 solars in your deck, you have an 83% chance. So if you're playing like a champion of Apollo solar deck, maybe you have 3 Astrabbit and then 15 solar. So then that adds up to 18 Elestrals, and the probability of hitting 1 out of 15 is 83. That's really good odds, right? And a lot of people don't really know that Apollo is this consistent in a dedicated solar deck. It might not feel like it to some people. Maybe people just whiff all the time. You know, even going down to 12, you're looking at a 73% and 9 a 60%. So even with a very small amount of solar Elestrals, like 9, you still have above 50% chance to hit. Like, sure, the boost helps, but how much actually does it help? So if we go over here, if you foretell 6, if you play Corvishine, you play Apollo, you foretell 6 to add something. If you play 15 solar, you're looking at a 97% chance to hit, which is a 14% chance increase. If you miss a 97%, you should probably just put your deck in the box, go home, down a couple bottles of whiskey, and go to bed, because that's insane odds to whiff on. If you go down to 12, it's 93. If you go down to 9, you're looking at 85. So, and you can see that as the number of solar Elestrals in your deck decreases, your odds actually get higher and higher. Or I should say the percentage increase of hitting gets higher. So does that mean you can cut down on solar Elestrals in your deck? You probably don't want to, right? But even then, is going from an 83% to a 97%, is that worth the normal cast? I guess is what I'm saying. Is that worth you just playing a guy for a turn, instead of just ripping Apollo and then playing a card that actually does something? It's kind of hard to say. Would you rather play Corvishine plus Apollo on the same turn, or would you rather play Apollo plus Astrabbit on the same turn? Would you rather play Apollo plus Plucky in the same turn, or Exaltus? I really don't know if it's that worth, because Corvishine kind of just sits there and does nothing until you put a liar on it. But it's a pretty slow way to start the game. And sure, getting that ad is nice, and Corvishine basically makes it so that Apollo's disenchant is free. But at the end of the day, you're just playing a 2/5 that adds a card. I mean, that's basically all you're doing. And it doesn't even add a specific card, right? You still have to... It just adds any random solar you have in your deck. So you're not even getting something specific like you would off of Smoltuga or Rummagem, you know, something like that. But that's enough ranting about this. Let's go into the actual archetypes. And we're going to start with the cows, because everybody loves talking about how bad the cows are, specifically me. Alright, so if you open Corvishine Apollo, and you're going for, let's just say you're playing 3 Champion Solbelle. If you're playing a solar deck, you probably are playing this, because if you do hit this, it's really nice. With just a base Apollo, if you go Foretell 3, you're looking at a 24% chance to hit a Solbelle. And then you special cast it out, and now you have Corvishine in play, and you have, or sorry, not Corvishine, you have Solbelle in play, and then you can maybe, I don't know, play a Plucky, get a Liar, start getting some beats in, or maybe you like ascend into Lustragon. So it's about a 1 in 4. So not too bad, honestly, especially if you Apollo over the course of multiple turns. Your odds are just going to get better and better every time you don't hit a Solbelle. Now, if you Foretell 6 with Corvishine, you're looking at a 44% chance, so it almost doubles it. But again, the issue is that you're playing Corvishine that turn. So even if you go Corvishine, Apollo, and you hit a Solbelle, I mean, your turn is over, because you can't ascend into anything. I guess you can, again, if you have Liar, I guess you can start getting some beats in, but other than that, your turn is over. And you just played 2 defensive bodies that don't really do anything until next turn. So if your opponent has like a Galaxy or a Viserys or something, they're just gonna clear your board, and I don't know, you didn't really accomplish a whole lot, right? And then not only do you have to factor in this probability, you have to factor in the probability of you drawing Corvishine Apollo in the same hand. Now, there's a lot of nuance to this calculation, because it's like, oh, what if you Apollo and then find the Corvishine, and then next turn you have the Corvishine. If we're just going off like base, just drawing these 2 exact cards together, it's an 11% chance to draw these together in your opening hand. You compound that with the 44%, and now you're all the way down to a 5%. So you have to draw the 2-card combo, you have to hit the 44% chance, and now you're all the way down to 5%, which is not great odds. And again, you're not really accomplishing anything by doing this, because you just played 2 guys that don't do anything. Now, I guess you can give it a little bit of leeway, right? If you have Plucky to search Apollo, if you have Exaltus to search the Corvishine, and then let's say you go for Corvishine Apollo on turn 2 or something like that, then you're looking at about a 14% chance. So again, not the best. Now, doing this over the course of multiple turns can be good. Obviously, you're just gonna, even if you don't hit Solbelle, you're pretty much always hitting just a guy. And I guess that's kind of the idea with Corvishine, is that it just guarantees that something happens, right? You play Corvishine and Apollo, the Corvishine just sits there because it's 5 defense, and then you just kind of guarantee your value every turn off of Apollo, and it puts the Solars back for your Nexus plays. So it's very cheap searching, it's very consistent searching, but it doesn't actually advance the game state. Now let's talk about the old Solbelle with Solstox. So we're talking about old Solbelle here, right? This is the, while you foretell, you may special ascend this Solbelle to a foretold Solstox, and your Apollo's effect that foretells cards reveals an additional 2. So Apollo with Solbelle gets you all the way up to 5. Okay, it gets you all the way up to 5 foretells. If you have Corvishine in play as well with the Solbelle and Apollo, you go all the way up to 8 foretells, okay? Let's talk about the probability of just Solbelle Apollo, okay? You're playing 2 Solstox. If you play any more than 2, you're already losing. So just play the 2 Solstox. You're foretelling 5, and your percent chance of hitting a Solstox about 27%. So again, a 1 in 4. Solstox is your boss, so this card needs to consistently hit the board in order for you to win games. If it's a 1 in 4 chance that your boss hits the board on any given turn, I mean, it's not great. But surely Corvishine helps, right? So if we foretell 8 with our Solstox, and we're going down to 34 cards in deck, by the way, instead of 35, because you have to normal cast Corvishine, and then next turn you have to normal cast Solbelle. So it takes 2 turns to set this up, okay? Two turns of doing nothing in order to set this up. It only goes up to 42%, so it's still worse than a 50-50 to hit the Solstox. And man, every time I do calculations with these cows, I just get more and more disappointed because it's just not reliable at all as a strategy. And the fact that you have to play a Corvishine 1 turn, keep it alive from like eddies and galaxies and Zeus, like you're gonna waste a back row keeping this thing alive unless your opponent just starts with an Astrabbit. And then next turn, you also have to have the Solbelle, which you may not have even drawn. You have to get lucky and find it off of Apollo foretell 6, I guess. So then you have to normal cast this 1/4, and then you have to hit the 42%. And if it gets Gorgons, I guess you're just shit out of luck, right? It doesn't help at all. I hate to say it, but Corvishine does not really help this strategy at all. Yes, it makes the probability slightly higher, but it also slows your deck down considerably. And the odds of you hitting still are not good enough to offset you doing nothing for 2 turns. If you go Corvishine turn 1, Solbelle turn 2, and you whiff, you've done nothing for 2 turns, you've wasted a back row keeping Corvishine alive, and you're giving your opponent much more time to establish their strategy, while you've just played 2 guys that don't do anything. So cows, completely not helping at all. Corvishine doesn't really help at all. Now there is one foretell card that has seen competitive success, and it is none other than Windjinn. Now Windjinn's been seeing a lot of experimentation lately because of the champion title mechanic, where you have 6 copies of a specific named card in your deck. So like Windjinn Pigs, a deck I really like. So as it stands right now, let's say you play the Windjinn, you call Exaltus. You have 6 copies of Exaltus in your deck. If you foretell 3, you have a 44% chance of hitting an Exaltus. So really not terrible odds, especially if you have a way to re-enchant the Windjinn on your opponent's turn. But it's not terrible. So surely bumping it up to a 6 foretell will be better. And it is considerably better. If you foretell 6 with a Windjinn, it goes up to a 71%. Still not guaranteed, but it is pretty damn high to hit a card you want, go into the Tornagin, and then search even more cards that you want. The problem with this is that it takes 2 turns to do this. It's kind of the same as everything else, right? It takes 2 turns to set this up. You have to stick the Corvishine for a turn. Maybe you have to waste a back row protecting it. And then next turn you have to drop the Windjinn and then hope that it hits something. 71 is pretty good, but if you whiff, again, you're sitting on a 2-5 with no effect and a 3-1 with no effect. And your opponent's just going to start clapping you. And again, you have to take into account the fact that you have to draw these at the same time. So drawing Corv and Windjinn by turn 2 is 15%. You compound that 15% on the 71%, you're looking at 11%. So are you really... Is this a strategy you want to make work 1 out of 10 games? This will happen 1 out of 10 games, statistically. It's just not... It's not good. I hate to say it, it's just not good. And it gets even worse when you factor in that if you draw just Windjinn and Apollo, you foretell, you stack your deck, and then you play Windjinn, and you know exactly what's on your deck, so it hits every time. Playing Jinn plus Apollo in 1 turn is also 11%. So it takes... This combo takes 1 turn and has the same odds as this 2-card combo that takes 2 turns, and it's not even guaranteed. This card kind of sucks. Corvishine kind of sucks. Adding an additional 3 foretells does not raise your odds by a significant amount. It really doesn't. It should have been, I don't know, reveal an additional 5 or some shit, but that might be a little too much. I'm going to be honest. 5 might be a little too much. But at the end of the day, the thing about this Corvishine, its effect is okay. I mean, it helps with Apollo consistency. But if you're trying to mix and match it with like Windjinn, it's not great. If you're trying to mix it with the old Solbelle Solstox combo, it's really not great. For hitting a Solbelle just in a pure champion of Apollo deck, which is, I would say, probably the best way to play Solar, it's not bad. 44%, I'll take that, especially over the course of 2 or 3 turns. I mean, you're gonna hit it eventually. The reason this card will see play is that if you put a Liar of Apollo on it, it's a 7/4. It's a 1-cost 7/4. That's it. Your opponent attacks into it, you go Argo, it's now a 7 attacker. Your guy dies, and the next turn I start beating you up. Sure, the effect is helpful sometimes. It's a 7/4 with Liar, and that's probably pretty good. I mean, that's Cryovern stats, right? That's Cryovern. Cryovern's really good. You know, maybe there's going to be some stuff in the future that makes this card a little bit better. Maybe some better foretell effects, because the cows aren't good. Windjinn is good in decks that aren't really solar, because of Monsoon of Eurus, because you can play Windjinn in like a pig deck, right? So you have the wind synergy there with Monsoon, Altar of Stars potentially. You can also play it in like a whale deck with 6 Galaxy, which that is just, I mean, that deck is Monsoon Turbo, because you're playing wind and water, and they all have receive effects that trigger when they get wind and water off of Monsoon. But playing Windjinn and just solar, I mean, you're better off just comboing it with Apollo and not comboing it at all with the Corvishine. So it'll remain to be seen whether this Corvishine really takes off or not. It probably will be good in just the standard Champion of Apollo Solar Nexus deck, where it's just, I mean, you put 3 Liars on board and now all your guys get +6/+6. I mean, that's probably going to be the best way to play it. But let me know what you guys think about the new Corvishine. I think the effect might age pretty well if we get more foretell archetypes per se. But as of right now, it's just a 7/4 with kind of an effect. So I hope you found this video useful. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I'll see you next time.